Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
Beach FM 106.3, great to welcome back to the radio the Mayor of the Kapiti Coast, K.Gurunathan. Guru, good morning and welcome. How are you?
I'm really good. I'm sorry I couldn't get the interview last week.
I understand that you weren't feeling the best, and in fact, I believe that you went to get a COVID-19 test, not necessarily related. What was that like?
Oh, that's the closest I've been to the pandemic, put it that way.
Yes.
The Mid Central Health has set up the testing center in the car park behind the Otaki Museum. And when I arrived, there were 3 tents down there and about 12 people in full protective gear. Wow. I think that was visually the scene. When you see that, then you get the visual impact of it was tremendous. And I think the actual test itself was very easy, quite disturbing. But the psychological impact of being so close to what people are trying to do to manage the COVID, I think that was a little bit scary.
This is for real. I guess even the people all kitted up in the PPE sort of puts a different emphasis on things.
Absolutely. Because you see so much of it on TV and stuff like that, but to get actually in front of them, it's an experience.
Indeed. And luckily you came through fine, so that's really good. I tell you what, there was a real political earthquake happened on Saturday night, and this is something which is, I think it may have rewritten the political map in New Zealand. What's your reading?
Well, I think you're right. As I saw this unfolding, and again, I think it's the way the government has been able to handle the COVID, the pandemic, and the initial economic recovery from this. That's, I think, obviously the main thing, because the issue of keeping people safe, I think that's been the main thing.
Yes.
So, yeah, and I think, and if you look at Teresa Nobby's achievement on the Otaki electorate, I mean, Tim Coffey worked his butt off.
He absolutely did. And a very fine candidate and many personal qualities, but obviously fighting against this red tide.
Exactly right. And I sort of thought that people might vote, party vote for Labour, but give the individual vote to them. I thought it might work out like that, given these workings. But Teresa, I think, matched it. And then I think the red tide was riding was just amazing. Corona.
Yes, I understand there was a real on-the-ground effort, particularly around the Levin area, and certainly that is an extraordinary result, at least locally. Of course, that is a seat, Otaki is a seat that has gone either way in the past. But looking just a further north, Rangatiki, that was just amazing.
Yeah. So, and I think for Kapiti or the Otaki seat, I think we've got a very large number of senior citizens.
Yes.
Who may have been conservative voters before, but the COVID impact, I think, has made a profound impact on how they see their safety under the particular government.
So that's just extraordinary. We better get on to local politics at some stage, which I think is the reason we're here. And I suppose to a certain extent we've sort of been moving towards the subject of planning. Obviously the world has changed, the financial world has changed, the political world has changed, and that's obviously going to affect your planning process. The long-term plan is in process. How's it going?
Well, we've had 2 initial workshops, strategic workshops, and we'll have another one coming up. And then we're also going to be initiating our initial teasing questions to the community. We've got 4 questions that we put up in the 4 weeks of November.
Yes.
That's looking at it starts with what matters most. And the first one will be, what matters most in your community as we navigate our way through the global pandemic. And then the second one, what matters most as we continue to experience growth across the district. Those are more pointed ones. And then thirdly, what matters most as we plan for Kapiti's future, more generic. And lastly, what matters most in your neighborhood. Having said that, of course, the Auditor General has taken a very keen interest in how we are all managing the long-term planning process for the long-term plan and the consultation process. And I think if you look at put on top of that the issue of what the government is indicating, and now they've got a very strong mandate. I think, John, if you go back the last couple of years, one of the first areas that the government worked on was in centralizing our politics.
Yes.
Right? We've seen that happen. And then the signal has come quite clearly in the RLA panel that make some recommendations to the government. And they've said that we've got too many councils for a population of 5 million.
Mm-hmm.
Signal is very clear. And another signal within the plan itself that they are looking at regional spatial plans, which means, local authorities may lose some of our planning abilities.
Yes.
In favor of a more regional approach. Luckily for the Wellington region, we have already in the last 2 years been working on what has been called the Wellington Region Growth Framework.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, of course, is the three waters. We've discussed it on the program before. The impact of that could mean by stealth, if you like, the amalgamation of smaller councils. And the Minister for Local Government has already been saying we need to reimagine local government, what local government should even be like. So there you have another move towards more centralized service deliveries, which may lead to changing or upsizing the councils and then reducing the number of councils. And of course, the other one, of course, we had they had a Simpson report, let's not forget that, where they want to reduce the number of district health boards.
Mm.
So all that is pointing to a particular direction of service delivery and efficiency. How they measure efficiency is going to be more centralized.
And one would suspect, Mr. Mayor, that they now have an enormous mandate. There'll be less internal negotiation going on within the government, one would suspect. And they've got an incentive to get going and get things done this time around. Do you sense there could be a quickening of pace?
Oh, absolutely. I think the minister's speech, the Prime Minister's speech yesterday was very clear that Labour has a clear mandate to rule, and of course this will accelerate in the process. And of course, she repeatedly said, when you have a three-party, a more coalition attempt, then the process becomes slower. Mm. What we have is a clear message that they have got the majority, but she's keen on working with others, which means, Greens, obviously. But how the arrangement is, we don't know. And then you've got the Maori Party on the side. Mm. So we are in for some very interesting discussions in the couple of weeks, I think.
So with that political overlay, how on earth can you get into your long-term planning process and know what you're going to have in terms of local resources, in terms of local allies? And if they're not allies, they could well be in the same tent. It must be very difficult to plan for this.
Yeah, I think that's why the Auditor General has sent out some guidelines to help us. And what he said is, the future is uncertain. And so transparency about the potential impact of uncertainty is important in preparing for the long-term plan. So our long-term plan, when we make those assumptions, we have to show clearly what these assumptions are and how and what form of good data feeds into that. Right. And we've got to tell the public clearly that we have got this plan, but all this is based on certain assumptions. And one of the key areas of assumptions of uncertainty is, of course, the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The impact is still very unclear. So even the impact on our previous annual plan, we need to revisit the things. And we don't know how we're going to... just looking at the other assumptions, he also mentioned the climate change issue.
Goodness.
And then thirdly, of course, the three waters.
Yes.
And
Guru, could I ask if the format of long-term plans is similar from council to council? So if you do get into amalgamation talks, is it easy to compare plan to plan and see where the commonalities are?
Well, I think one of the things, of course, is that there would be, our assumptions will maybe we may share some of the assumptions with other councils, but we have to underpin that in terms of the planned levels of service and flow-on impacts on forecast debt and the rates, funding, how we fund this and all that. And those are very localized. So we have to customize this to our local situation. So we are grappling with a number of imponderables. So this is, but like for instance, we know for the Three Waters one, we won't be coming to any conclusion from the central government side how it will work out by the time our long-term plan needs to be delivered in June next year.
Yes.
So we just have to assume that we will still be providing those services. See what I mean? So we are pretending, but we need to pretend with some facts.
Oh, well, with the light of planning in a changing world. So we are entering an extraordinarily interesting time. Next 3 years are going to be very challenging indeed, and certainly for those in charge of our futures. Look, it's been great once again to have a chat to you. Great to hear that you're hale and hearty, and look forward to doing it again soon here on Beach FM. Mayor Gurunathan, thank you for your company.
Thank you, John. Thank you for listening.
106.3 Beach FM.